Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Flagrant Talk Sports Podcast. It's your host, Isaiah, back with another March Madness video. This is 2.0 of a series that I'm going to keep doing up until Selection Sunday. I'm going to give you three of my winners and three of my losers of this previous week, all in a little video previewing what they did this week, the wins they got, the losses they got, their resume as a whole with all the quads broken down, and the look ahead to what more they can do to improve or hurt their seeding in the tournament. If this is your first time on the channel, welcome. We are going to be doing a ton of March Madness content for you, as we've been doing in previous weeks, all up to Selection Sunday. And of course, when my co-host Moses and I do the bracket, please leave a like, subscribe, all that fun stuff that everyone says. But without further ado, let's get into the video, and we're going to start with a winner. My first winner of this week, Tom Izzo and his Michigan State Spartans, who are now 22-5 on the season. They've been playing some great basketball and have really done a good job at improving their seeding as we get closer to the tournament. As we see what they did this last week, they handled business against a good Purdue Boilermakers team in a 75-66 win, and then went and took care of business at Michigan. As you've seen, if you've checked out my previous videos where I'm filling out a bracket, I even had the Wolverines as a winner last week. They're one of my darlings. I had them going in the Final Four in my last video, and Michigan State went there, took care of business. Basketball is better when the Wolverines and Sparties are good programs, and we have that this year. They're taking care of business. They're playing some great basketball, and a look ahead, they'll get to play Maryland, a very good team, a team I'm high on, one of the best starting fives in the country. Wisconsin, who's coming off of a tough loss to Oregon, but a very, very good team nonetheless. Iowa, and then a rematch against Michigan, where the Sparties will be at home. As we take a look at their resume as a whole, they're now 7-4 in quad one and 6-1 in quad two. No bad quad three or four losses that are eating away at their resume. They're 15th in the net. They have some great wins on a neutral side against North Carolina. That win doesn't quite move us as we did at the start of the year, but that's okay regardless. I really love this week for them, adding Purdue and Michigan, as you can see on the bottom, to that resume. Sparties are playing some great basketball, 13-3 in the Big Ten, and hot as we're getting ready to move into their conference play and the tournament. With that out of the way, now we're going to dampen the mood a little bit with my first loser, the Marquette Golden Eagles, 20-7 on the season. And man, they've been struggling. This is a team that I do like. I love Cam Jones, one of my favorite players in the country today. But they can't seem to get out of their own way with the way some of these games have been going. As we take a look at what they did this week, they went 1-1, but that win is against Seton Hall, who's bad. Don't let that win over UConn fool you. That is a bad Seton Hall team, one of the worst teams in the country in terms of like Power Five, bigger, schools. And the bigger note here is that loss to Villanova. And while Villanova beat a St. John's team last week, this is a 4 losses in 6 game situation, and those 2 wins are against bottom feeders or weaker teams in the Big East. So as we fill out these brackets, as we get closer to March Madness, I'm getting more and more nervous about what I'm seeing out of the team. They'll have games against Providence, which they should take care of business. Absolutely. Georgetown, another game they should win. And 2 tough ones against UConn and St. John's. If they can go 3-1 in their final 4, I'll be decent. But you need to beat Providence and Georgetown, no doubt. If you can split UConn and St. John's, you walk away happy. But it's been tough. Looking at their full resume here, they're 26th in the net. They're now 10-7 in the top 2 conferences, but 3 quad 2 losses. Dayton, who is not the team we thought they were going to be going into this season, Xavier, and of course the loss at home to UConn. It's tough. They're not out of the obviously. This is a team that's comfortably in the bracket. When I call a team a loser, it doesn't mean press the panic button, it's over. But if Marquette doesn't correct course, they could be a one game played and then they're out type of March Madness from them. We'll keep an eye on Marquette, but from what I'm seeing right now, I'm not loving the play out of the Golden Eagles. A team I am loving the play out of, the BYU Cougars. Holy cannoli. Cougars 19-8 now on the season. And what a week for the Cougars. Took care of business against Kansas 91-57. I believe this is the worst loss taken to a preseason number one in men's college basketball history. I believe that's the stat. Either way, an ass kicking given by BYU and Arizona. I know it's a controversial loss. This was all over my feed and everything, but the win is the win. 96-95 at Arizona. That is a very good Wildcats team. The Cougars are now winners of their last 4, and I'm loving the play. They've done a great job at steadying the ship, getting back into the tournament, feeling comfortably in, and they'll have a game against Arizona State. I think they win that. A game against West Virginia. That will be a good game. I really like the West Virginia team, but BYU being at home, I'm probably leaning the Cougars there. A great game against a 2 or 3 seed in this year's bracket in Iowa State. And then a game against Utah, which they should take care of business. I'm liking the basketball I'm seeing out of the Cougars right now. Winners of their last 4. If they can end the year winning 7 of 8, going into conference play, I think sky's the limit for this team. Taking a look at their resume as a whole, only one quad 2 loss to Providence. It wasn't a doozy. They did get smacked around 83-64, but no quad 4-3 losses. Again, that's their only quad 2 loss. 4-7 in quad 1, and they picked up 2 of those this week in Kansas and Arizona, 2 top 25 ranked programs. A win on the road against West Virginia, which is great. If they can get another one of those at home, even better. And a great win against Baylor. 29th in the net, 10-6 in the Big 12. I'm liking the basketball I'm seeing out of them. And we'll see how hot they can really get. We'll see what seed they end up with, but they're doing a great job at steadying the ship and putting themselves in a great spot to make the tournament with room to spare. The next team breaks my heart. This is a team I am a fan of. I have baby photos in Gonzaga onesies. I have Gonzaga jerseys. This is my team, my childhood team. And this year has been a doozy for my Bulldogs. 21-8 on the season. And a 1-1 week. Went to Washington State, took care of business. And after that game, I said, all right, we're playing St. Mary's, but I've loved the basketball that we've been playing post, losing to St. Mary's a couple weeks ago on the road against the Gales. They've just been picking up good wins. Not against good teams, but they've handled business. They've won by double digits. They've won by 20. They've been doing some great basketball. And it finally felt like, hey, if they can get that quad 1 win against St. Mary's, I'll feel a little bit better. That's not the case. They lost at home to the Gales. St. Mary's played amazing. Saxon, who isn't known for really scoring the basketball, 16 points, I believe. A freshman with an 18-point performance. It was a great performance by the Gales. They were a team that I considered having as a winner, but I felt like it was a little redundant. So, given the way that they're playing, congrats to the Gales on their WCC regular season. Only 1 loss in conference play. As for the Zags, 2 more games left in their season. They will not win the WCC. And they play Santa Clara, who they lost at home to in the kennel earlier this season, and then on the road at San Francisco, a very good Dons team. You need to win both of those games. And the biggest reason the Zags are a loser this week to me isn't the loss to St. Mary's. St. Mary's is a very good team, a bracket team that Sean Farnham said on the call yesterday. I feel like they're closer to a 5 seed than a 7 seed or an 8 seed. I'm inclined to agree. I don't know, I'm fine if you don't think 5, but I think 6 is totally fair. Some great basketball out of the Gales. But with the Zags, 2-6 in quad 1 play and 4-2 in quad 2. You're looking at this resume and it's not good. 11-0 in quad 4, those are nothing burgers. Those do nothing for your resume. 4-0, excuse me, in quad 3. That loss at home to Santa Clara, even though Santa Clara is a good team, is inexcusable. That loss against Tinkle and Oregon State, not good. And their 2 quad 1 wins against Baylor and San Diego State came in November. I was at the Baylor game, and game 1 of the season, I was like, whoa, a 101-63 win? Wait a minute. This team could be dangerous. They've completely squandered any optimism I have of a deep March Madness run. Both of their quad 1 wins came in November, like I said, and it's against Baylor, who is not the number 8 overall team that we thought they were going to be. They're more of an 8 seed, a 9 seed than they are an 8 overall. San Diego State, who's playing some good basketball right now, a tournament team. They're not a team that is like a 5, 4, 6, 7, counted that a little weird, but they're not one of those teams where you look at that win and you feel great. You lost that one to West Virginia. You blow it against Kentucky. You sell it against UConn. You sell it against UCLA. You come up short twice against St. Mary's. This is a Bulldogs team where if the game is close, they will lose it. It's the way it is. It breaks my heart. It's the way it is. And yes, they're in the bracket, but when I'm filling it out, I'm removing my bias and I'm not loving what I'm seeing out of the Zags. A tough, tough loss to the Gales where they really needed that quad 1 victory over a good tournament team. Come up short. A team that didn't come up short is an SEC program. John Calipari has his Razorbacks 16-11, and he talked about it. Hey, we know that these losses to Auburn, we know that these losses to Florida, we know that some of these losses aren't bad losses. Those are great teams. The SEC is having a historic conference season, but we got to beat someone at some point on some court. And the Razorbacks did just that this week. 1-1, they lose to Auburn, but they played them close. And for a little bit, you felt like maybe the Razorbacks could win. They ultimately come up short, but they get a great win over 15th ranked Missouri. This is a Tigers team that I feel great about, that is coming off a win against the Crimson Tide. And the Razorbacks now at 16-11 have, to me, I would have them either as the first or the last 4 in or first 4 out. They keep their hopes alive with that win over Missouri. You'll get a game against Texas, who I considered as a loser this week. My God, they got slapped around by South Carolina, one of the few SEC teams you can't have that happen against. So you'll get Texas. You'll then get South Carolina. I think that's a win for the Razorbacks. You need to win that game. A game against Vandy, very good. A team I considered as a winner this week as well. And then Mississippi State. The job isn't done. I think the Razorbacks need to go 3-1 to feel really good going into the SEC tournament. If you go 2-2, you got more work to do in the tournament. I'm not saying if you go 3-1, you're a lock, but 19-12, you pick up 3 more SEC games. Maybe you win one in your conference tourney. You could have a resume. I think at 2-2, you need to win a couple of games in SEC play. This is just my, assessment of what the Razorbacks need to do, but they are a winner for me. And taking a look at their resume, it is a weird one, as it is when evaluating all of these kind of bubble SEC teams. If you look at this resume most years, they're not a tourney team. The Razorbacks are 40th in the net, though, in a historic SEC team, 5-9 in conference play. No quad 4 or 3 losses, 11-0 in those departments, so that's great. 1-2 in quad 2. Losing to LSU is a tough one. And Oklahoma finally got back on track this week, but a 3-point loss there. 4-9 in quad 1. They desperately needed that Missouri win. They have a win over Kentucky. They already have a win over Texas, who, like I said, they're going to play this upcoming week, and a neutral site win over Michigan. The Razorbacks, they're not comfortably in the tournament now. But what that win over Missouri does is it opens it back up. You are alive. Your fate is back in your hands. But you have to keep winning these games. I've got the Razorbacks as my final winner. And that sets me up for another team that it's upset me. But I've got the Wake Forest Demon Deacons, 19-8. This was a team going into this year that I felt great about. And it's not looking good as they are sitting in the bubble purgatory, trying to fight their way in and not doing a great job in doing so. 1-1 this week. Or they only had one game this week. Excuse me. They played the previous Saturday. A loss to NC State, 85-73. This is a quad 2 loss. And depending on how the Wolfpack play, could be quad 3. You can't lose this game. You needed to get this win, be 20-7. The win doesn't do anything special for you, but it keeps hope alive as you go into the end of the season. Now the work you have to do in ACC play is much harder. You have a game against Virginia. Should win that. You need to win that. Notre Dame. You need to win that. Duke. I don't know if they can. I think that's the bigger problem. If you get that win against the Blue Devils, and they did this last year, all of a sudden things are a little different. But at Duke, I'm not putting my money there. And Georgia Tech, you need to win those 3 other ACC games outside of Duke. And this NC State game needed to be a victory for the team. Coming up short, unacceptable. It's similar to UConn last week with Seton Hall. It's an inexcusable loss. It's not one you can take at this point in the season. Looking at Wake Forest's overall body of work, 62nd in the net. They have a quad 3 loss in Florida State. And like I said, depending on that NC State performance to end their year, they could be 6-2. You can argue that it's dumb that they move quads. That's another area. But the fact is the fact on their resume. A 5-1 quad 2 with that NC State loss now, and they're 2-6 in quad 1. That SMU win, it's great. I had SMU as a loser last week because of it. It's not this incredible win, though. They're without a quad 1 win. And then a win over Michigan is your shining star. That's a good win. I'm, like I said, high on that Wolverine team. But this body of work isn't great. And if you don't win that Duke game in the regular season, you're adding 3 more okay wins, and you're going into the ACC tournament nervous. Like, I think it's realistic to say they're going to go into the ACC tournament 14-6. You got more work. This isn't a traditional ACC year. I think it's being overblown of like, this is the worst ACC conference in its history. I don't think it's that bad, but it hasn't been great. And they have serious work to do, and that they shot themselves in the foot. We'll see if Hunter Salas and company can take care of business. A Zags transfer who I've loved to see. I think has NBA upside potentially if you haven't seen Wake Forest play, but work to do, man. That 85-73 loss over NC State, not pretty. But let me know your 3 winners and losers, or whoever you may have in that department for this week. Give me some teams. Again, I only do 3. I don't I'm just giving what I've seen this week, and we'll do this again every Monday before we get the bracket. Song of the pod, because we have to end it that way. Funny Pages, by Mac Miller. We will have 4 videos this week. Elimination Chamber video tomorrow for our wrestling fans. We'll have another bracket video. If you want to see our previous 2 entries, they're already out on the channel. We'll have another one Friday. Moses will have a solo video on Wednesday or Thursday. So you'll be getting 4 videos, including this one this week, with more and more and more March Madness content to come. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you all have an amazing start to your week, and I will see you in the next video. Peace out.